Okay, ladies and gentlemen, dear distinguished media representatives, good morning. This is an important meeting today and tomorrow as well. Of course, there are important subjects timely to discuss. Also under new leadership of Secretary General Mark Rutte. I am absolutely certain that there will be continuity of the activities, the plans, the ambitions which have been already implemented under the previous Secretary General. And of course, it is important to continuously focus on defense and deterrence of NATO, on implementing regional plans, on, of course, implementing rotational model. It's extremely important for the eastern flank, also for Latvia, rotational model and protecting our airspace. Of course, it is important continuously to support Ukraine until victory. We underline the importance of Ukraine using all assets, also Western assets, NATO assets provided by NATO members, also to target legitimate targets on Russian territory. Ukraine has absolute right to self-defense, and that's why also this is absolutely legitimate. And of course also important to discuss what happens more globally, including in Indo-Pacific, also what are the Russia's activities, how we can contest, constrain, challenge also those Russia's activities, because of course it is also about hearts and minds and interests more globally. So that's why Indo-Pacific is also a very important field of strategic interest for NATO.
The frontline countries have been asking for more NATO clarity on what to do about airspace incursions.
Yep.
You're talking about putting up a wall of drones, things like this. But what do you want from NATO? More air defense, but also more political guidance on what they intend to do when there are, for example, the armed drones that question the country?
Absolutely. We have experienced a serious incident. Incursion by Russian Shahed drone on Latvian soil, in Latvian airspace, and we must remember that Latvian airspace is NATO airspace. Crossing Latvian border, it's crossing NATO airspace, a NATO border. So that's why we have committed ourselves to defending the NATO territory from first inch, and it means also first inch in air. That's why absolutely it is important that we strategically and politically move forward with those ambitions and commitments which have been made. It is about rotational model, implementing those rotational model. On eastern flank, we see that there are also the necessity to upgrade air policing to air defense mission. that it's not just about dealing with Russian jet fighters, but also, as we see, with such objects as armed drones. So it is about NATO credibility. It is about credibility, how we are able to respond. I think we already made some adjustments. Eastern flank countries have made a very clear statements in this regard. B9, Bucharest 9 meeting was just recently taking place, and also there was underlining importance of dealing together. So it means that we should implement those long-term already ambitions and commitments immediately to react right now, and also to adjust to the new challenges. And drones absolutely are new challenges. Well, it's a new reality, and the war is closer than it seems.
But do you want them to be shot down? Do you want NATO to be prepared in NATO airspace with the air mission to shoot them down before they possibly land on a Latvian village? Is that what you're asking?
We believe that, of course, once it crosses NATO border, first of all, it must be detected clearly, and then, of course, it is allowed, the circumstances allows, it should be intercepted, basically being shot down.
On the victory plan of President Zelensky, how realistic do you think is his demand to get an invitation for NATO membership within a year?
I mean, of course, we will see also the more detailed plan, but we support the victory plan. We believe that Ukraine must have victory against aggressor country. It is for all of us important. It is about wider repercussions, implications. If we don't invest in supporting Ukraine as much as we can, as long as it takes right now, of course, the costs will be higher in the future. So that's why implications of what we do right now are extremely important. Latvia has supported the NATO membership for Ukraine, but at the very end it is about 32 members of NATO which should unanimously also agree on NATO membership. So the dialogue, the discussion, the conversation within alliance also goes on. Latvia has a clear stance in this regard.
Some NATO members don't allow Ukraine to use the weapons that are delivered deep inside Russia, like, for example, Germany. What is your position on this?
Well, I already stated my and our position, and it's very clear. It is that Ukraine must be allowed to use weapons provided also on hitting legitimate targets on Russian territory.
If President Zelensky walks away without anything new, given his presentation of the peace plan, is he in a more insecure position than he arrives in Brussels?
Well, I believe that it is a continuous dialogue. It is a continuous search also for what steps we are making. Yes, we are 32 members of NATO. Of course, there are diversity also sometimes of the detail, but I think it is always very clear that there is no diversity in terms of the clear understanding how important it is, what takes place, what Ukraine is fighting for, and that support must be provided. Yes, then in details, we see that there are different opinions sometimes how specific steps must be taken. We must also remember that already back in Vilnius summit, the NATO membership for Ukraine, it was agreed when conditions allow, when allies agree. So allies agree is an important part of this. But then again, what we see strategically and clearly in Washington summit, irreversibility of Ukraine's path to NATO. So I think it was very clearly stated. Yes, so now already we discussed more about details, how we make this irreversible path as soon, as short as possible.
One of the biggest partner in drone coalition for Ukraine.
Yes.
Are you looking for buying some Ukrainian product drones for your army? Maybe you're interested in it. It's important for our industry to know that we have some partners who are ready to buy our production.
We have, of course, very close partnership with Ukraine in this regard. So yes, it's a co-led, the drone coalition is being co-led by UK and Latvia. And Latvia, of course, puts a great emphasis and effort in the success of this coalition. We are also in continuous dialogue with our Ukrainian counterparts, what is exactly needed. We see that there are several ways how to provide and contribute to the success of the drone coalition, and the primary goal, of course, the success of Ukraine fighting for its independence and freedom. And there, of course, are the bilateral donations by nation states, by local industry. There is a specific fund which is also open for wider procurement, and there are also drone coalition members which are investing directly into Ukraine. So that's why, of course, we strongly encourage to move forward with all those activities. And Ukraine must be on board very actively actively involved. Ukraine has I think, immense experience in drone warfighting. I think we can also learn a lot from what Ukraine is doing, also in terms of developing technology. So I see this is a long-term cooperation project, and I would say the mission and ambition for a long term for us to cooperate, and also, of course, to take into account what are the experiences, technologies, know-how of Ukrainian soldiers, Ukrainian industry, Ukrainian innovation.
Donald Trump seems to be confident to have the ability to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. If he was elected president in 2 weeks, how would that affect NATO relations and more broadly the world order?
Well, of course, the elections in US are very important. The US is indispensable in NATO security and defense and deterrence efficiency and strengths. Of course, it is also very important, indispensable, integral part of supporting Ukraine in its war effort, in its fight for freedom. So that's why, of course, we look very carefully. At the same time, we must remember that now we speak about a pre-election campaign. Of course, there are different information and campaign slogans are coming out. At the very end, I believe that the US will be continuously supporting Ukraine. Yes, might be some difference of emphasis, but US is important. It will support, and I think also Mark Rutte has expressed it very clearly. We move forward with any administration. All administrations, I think also in the United States, are very aware of the fact that Ukraine fight for its freedom, and that implications of that fight is much wider also for the United States. Thank you very much. Yes, have a nice day. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Okay, good morning to you all. Important 2 days ahead of us. First of all, for Finnish perspective, we think that the defense and deterrence is our top priority in this meeting. We are seeing good progress in the NATO's strengthening the deterrence and defense sector. We still need a lot of new work to do on that sector, more troops, capabilities, investments, and we have to do it fast. There's no time to waste. And of course, these days, one top priority is also the Ukrainian support. We need more support to Ukraine, and NATO has to deliver what we have promised also. And that's why we have to also do a lot of work today on that sector. And third pillar is our partners, global partners. EU, for example, and new Commission is in a crucial role to ramp up the defense industry, especially in the European sector, but also in transatlantic sector. So the defense industry is a key element in these partnerships with EU, but also with the Indo-Pacific partners, which are also today here. We are. I just visited 2 weeks ago in the Pacific area, and we see that the deeper cooperation in defense material systems, industry, cyber, space, and critical technologies. There's a lot of potential in future years. Not only with Finland, but we see that all the NATO countries with Indo-Pacific partners can do a closer cooperation in those fields. But thank you.
Do you see any room for movement among the allies on President Zelensky's top priorities, giving not just more weapons, but also on this long-standing wish to be invited to NATO? We hear behind the scenes that there is some shift in positions, countries seeming more willing to give at least a stronger signal on this, perhaps by the Hague summit. Do you sense that in your meetings?
I think I will see the discussion today and can assess that tomorrow, maybe clearer.
If Zelensky leaves Brussels without any new promises, that would be seen by Putin clearly as a kind of that Putin is winning. Can you give some new promises to Zelensky, as on weapons as well as on coming forward with membership?
Well, I'm not starting to speculate on that. I think that the NATO countries are quite united and strong to support Ukraine, but the key problems are now in the defense industry capacity and the pace what we can do to ramp up the defense industry to give more weapons and ammunition to Ukraine. And even though we are seeing that Russia is now benefiting the situation from the Middle East, because there is a war and the United States have to participate in that field in somehow. maybe in a longer stance also. That's why European countries must ramp up the defense industry quite fast.
Finland has a direct border with Russia. Do you feel enough supported by NATO countries to protect this border also from hybrid attacks?
Well, first of all, we are really happy to see the progress, what's going on in the Finnish integration to NATO. First of all, we have strong our own army. That's why we are a little bit in a different position than other countries in the eastern border. But still, we are getting this land command component, and that's going in the right track and in a good pace also. And we are getting this forward land forces concept, and that's also under the negotiations, but still I'm really positive about that progress. And also the points of view about the allied countries, how to secure also the northern parts, the new northern parts of the alliance, Finland, Sweden and the High North area. We are having a meeting with the High North countries today, and we are discussing this High North agenda today. So that's in a key priority for Finland, but we are really happy to see that all the NATO countries are also seeing that the High North area is valuable and crucial for the whole alliance.
What can you tell us about the discussions on the FLF troops during this meeting? What kind of meetings will you have on that, and maybe with Sweden also?
Well, we are having bilateral meetings in this meeting, but also in other cases. So in this meeting we are having these top priority things, the NATO's overall deterrence situation and the Ukrainian supporting these. But overall, I'm really positive and optimistic about the FLF project. It's going on the right track.
Ukraina tulee tänne pyytämään apua ja kutsua NATOon. Mitä muuta NATOlla on nyt tarjota kuin kannustusta ja puhetta? Hehän eivät voi lähteä täältä pettyneinä.
Me tiedetään, että Ukraina tarvitsee konkreettista apua ja Suomi on antanut 25 aseapupakettia, 2,3 miljardia euroa arvoltaan ja tulemme jatkaa vahvana tätä tukea. Ja me toivotaan tietysti, että kaikki maat antaa vahvaa konkreettista aseapua ja tukea. Ja Ukrainalla on tiettyjä esityksiä, joita jokainen maa varmasti yhdessä arvioi. Uskon, että se henki tällä hetkellä on se, että kaikki tietää, että on kriittisen tärkeää antaa kaikki se apu, mitä Ukraina tarvitsee. Vasta sitä kautta syntyy sitten edellytykset rauhanneuvottelulle oikeasti.
Entä tuo psykologinen tuki, joka tulisi mahdollisesti tästä kutsusta? Oletteko te valmis lähettämään sellaisen?
Me arvioidaan näitä yhdessä ja se on tänään mielenkiinnolla odotetaan tietysti puolustusministeri Umerovin tapaamista. Mulla on kahdenvälinen tapaaminen Umerovin kanssa iltapäivällä ja sen jälkeen illan kokous Umerovin kanssa ja ilmeisesti Zelenski myös tulee siihen kokoukseen mukaan.
Miten muotoilisi vielä tänne, että onko se kutsu mahdollinen tai realistinen sinne Haagiin mennessä?
En lähde nyt sitä arvioimaan, että nyt pitää myös sillä lailla pitää katse pallossa, että se mikä on ihan puhtaasti länsimaiden käsissä on lisää rahaa, lisää aseita, lisää ammuksia, pitkäaikaisia tilauksia puolustusteollisuudelle kotimaassa ja sitten yhteishankintoja. Ja näissä tarvitaan tietysti EUn tämä tiivis yhteys. Sen takia EU on nyt keskeinen NATO-kumppani tässä Ukrainan tuessa. Kiitoksia.
Good morning. I'm John Healey. I'm the new UK Defence Minister. And at this time of my first NATO Defence Ministers meeting here in Brussels, it comes at a time when the UK's unshakable commitment to NATO could never be more important. And at a time of growing Russian aggression and increasing wider threats, today we will make the commitment to reinforce NATO's eastern flank with a new plan alongside Estonia for our forces there. And we will make a commitment, a UK commitment, to bolstering the future of Europe's defences, leading a new initiative to net together the European air defence systems and to work together with other European allies to develop long-range missiles. This is part of the UK's new determination to work more closely with other European allies on security for the future. And Europe's security is guaranteed by this NATO alliance. Thank you. Yes.
What are your thoughts on Ukraine's victory plan that was introduced by President Zelensky? Is it realistic to implement?
I'm pleased that President Zelenski came last week to London to brief me and the British Prime Minister on the victory plan. It's very important he's here in Brussels to brief NATO defence ministers today. The message will be quite clear. We, as Ukraine's supporters, must do everything we can to step up our support for Ukraine in the weeks and months ahead, to put more pressure on Russia, to ensure that Ukraine can prevail, because the defence of Europe starts in Ukraine. They're fighting for the same values and same beliefs and same freedoms that we prize, and we owe them that duty to stand with them for as long as it takes.
What can you give President Zelensky on his way home? What new promises can you provide?
Well, we've been a UK government for just 3 months now. On day 2 in my job, I was in Odessa with President Zelensky because Ukraine is a first-order priority for me as the UK Defence Secretary and for the UK government. So we've stepped up our UK support for Ukraine, military aid. We've stepped up the production of fresh weapons, including air defence systems, which the Ukraine are asking for. And we've also struck a new treaty for export guarantees and industrial production. And in that way, like other allies together, we can help with the provision of military aid now and the production of what Ukraine needs in the weeks and months ahead.
Today is also the meeting of the AP4 countries together with the allies. Which strategy should the NATO adopt here together with its partners when it comes to China, who has become militarily involved also in the Ukrainian conflict?
Look, I'm delighted we've got the 4 defence ministers from the IP4 here with us today at NATO. It stresses for me 2 things. First of all, that the security of the North Atlantic is indivisible from the security of the Indo-Pacific. So the concerns about the Indo-Pacific are also concerns for NATO nations. And secondly, with President Zelensky here, some of the staunchest supporters for Ukraine's fight for freedom have been countries like the IP4 that are not in the NATO area, but in the Indo-Pacific area. They're fighting and they stand for the same freedoms and values that we do, and Ukraine's fight is also their fight. Thank you very much.
One last question. 2 Jahren vorgesehen und da sagt Deutschland jetzt nicht, was soll das auch werden? Minister of Lithuania, Defense Minister. Belarus border. Do you fix any activity of Belarusian troops, or how it looks the situation with illegal migrants on your border? Illegal migration now, the situation is quite stable. I think we implemented the tools who let us stabilize and control the situation. Now we have a new phenomena which is connected to smuggling. We're using now not the drones for the smuggling, but the meteorological balloons. And we're bringing the cigarettes to our country by the balloons who are not controlled, but anyway they are like create the risk for, especially for civilian aviation. So now we're implementing the tools against smuggling networks, but also sending the signals to the Belarusian side to stop that kind of activities, because it creates the risk for civilian aviation. What about troops? Do you fix any activity? Not expected. I mean, everything according to the traditional plans. We know very well what our intelligence is strong enough to have clear indicators where is a training exercise, where is a real threat. So now, at this moment, we don't feel nothing unusual. But you know, you always should be prepared. Thank you.
Of the President Zelensky's victory plan, and more specifically his demand to get an invitation from NATO within the next year?
Very positive. I think invitation, first of all, it is not membership. Invitation is just a first stage, showing the Ukrainian nation that Russia does not have the veto power on the NATO enlargement. It's very important to send a message to the Ukrainian nation, which fights now for all our security, but they in the future can have a membership in NATO. But invitation is a first stage, and if you give invitation, it's real irreversible page of history. So it's a real, not in wordings, just in conclusions, but it's a real irreversibility, on point of no return. And sending the message to Russia, but we don't have the veto power, informal veto power on NATO and NATO enlargement. But in this plan, there are also other important aspects, like, for example, to help to Ukraine right now. We know what NATO countries has the resources to do it more and more effectively.
But the Secretary General was very reluctant.
Now? So would you advocate giving this invitation now?
I would give yes, yeah, absolutely.
Secretary General Rutte was reluctant on giving a timeline for this invitation. Why is that? Why are there still bottlenecks among some of the allies?
Many countries, many approaches, many views, and you need to find the common ground. We are Baltics, with Lithuania, we understand the situation, and we have, if you want to stop Russia, if you want to break their military machine, you need to support Ukraine. It's the best way to break this machine. If you want to push Russians back from the NATO territory, from even idea to test NATO, the best way to do it is support to Ukraine in every means. It's military support and also political support as an invitation to NATO.
Plan from Zelensky, it looks like he's putting now responsibility for victory or for success in the hands of Western world. Is it right to say it's now your responsibility?
I think the real situation that the Ukrainian nation is fighting and dying. For their independence, but also, as I said, we're pushing back Russians every day. Every day. You can imagine if it will be de facto frozen, how Russia can be reestablish their powers and to try to test in some years even NATO territory. So Ukrainians are fighting for our security too. That's why it's quite normal to ask for support, at least with lethal support, and of course to give all permissions to hit the targets inside of Russia if it's connected to with military aggression on Ukraine. What we are doing, we don't have long-range missiles, but we have the resources allocated and now negotiating with Ukrainians for the contract their ballistic missiles who can hit Russian targets. So we will invest into the Ukrainian defense. So this is one of options. If you have some restrictions, what you can do, you can invest into Ukrainian defense industry and don't have any internal red lines.
What would you like to see NATO do in terms of air defense of the front line of your country and the Baltic states, given the increasing number of incursions, including of armed drones coming into the NATO airspace?
We have confirmed in Vilnius, now reconfirmed with additional details in Washington summit, the rotational air defense model, which is to the all eastern flank, but especially to the Baltics. So we had one success story, and I want to thank Netherlands, who deployed the Patriot system, which were plugged in Lithuanian air defense systems with NASAMS systems on summer, and we had good training, and I think it was a good experience. And now we are working on with such kind of trainings could be more and more and more. So we are talking with many now NATO countries to deploy at least for trainings, at least for a short time, their ground-based air defense forces. Also, we are investing in ourselves. Just last week, we signed 2 new contracts on mobile short-range air defense system with Swedish Saab on M-Shorets, and also NASAMS. It's a third battery which we will have in Lithuania, a new contract we signed with Norwegian company Kongsberg. So we're investing a lot ourselves, but would like to implement also rotational air defense model with participation of other NATO countries.
The number of incursions is still rising, even with all of these measures you're taking. So what needs to be done?
You know, it depends on the incursion. You know, so if you're talking about Shahed drones, so there are tools how when you detect them, there are tools how you can destroy it by fighter jet or using some more softer arms from the ground. So it's also lessons learned from Ukraine. We know what to do. I mean, so we're investing a lot of nationally, but if you talk about cruise missiles, if you talk about ballistical missiles, different planes, jets, which is coming from adversary. So air defense model with Patriots, SAMT, NASAMS, IRIS-T works well.
When it comes to supporting Ukraine, EU-NATO partnership is of course very important to coordinate also the efforts. There's a Lithuanian candidate now to become defense commissioner.
Yeah,
how do you think?
Today, yeah.
So how do you think that Kubilius might influence also this partnership or foster further partnership between you and NATO?
He will influence it very positive way. I'm sure about that because I know him, former prime minister of my country. He's a strong politician. Now he challenged for him to take this portfolio, which is quite just empty, and to put the instruments into that. So many things what he can do: support Ukrainian defense industry with European resources, also to support our eastern flank. We will talk today about counter-mobility measures, military mobility, where we can put more European resources. It will be like a border sharing and sharing with NATO. NATO is more defense, hard defense. EU as a more soft defense. The main aim and challenge for him to give a push to our defense industry. We see a new defense industry lines, but not new factories. We need not evolution, we need a revolution. So this is the main challenge for him. I hope he will succeed.
Some things that were labeled as impossible, like delivering fighter tanks, fighter jets, actually became reality after months of debate. Do you expect a similar thing to happen with the invitee status of Ukraine, starting on this meeting?
I have hope, of course. It won't be very easy, but I have hope. I mean, we need to do it. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, bye. Thank you.
with a proposal on the table in the follow-up of the G7 meeting we had in June, the idea that we have to unblock a package of $50 billion as soon as possible, and it has to be tangible, it has to be concrete. And point two, we made an important decision in this European Council a certain time ago when we decided to grant the candidate status to Ukraine. And since then, you made a lot of progress by implementing reforms that are needed, and we have to continue to work together so that you come closer to the EU, because we are convinced that your future and the future of Ukraine is within the European Union's family. These are two important elements I wanted to share with all of you. And finally, probably the main topic, the victory plan. Yesterday you had the occasion to present in the parliament in Ukraine the victory plan. You had also the occasion the last days and weeks to talk with some of us about this victory plan, and today we have one more occasion to go more into the details, to see what are your proposals, and following your presentation there will be an exchange of views that I'm certain will help us to make the decisions that we need to make our support more concrete, more operational and more tangible. Well, these were a few words I wanted to share in introduction, and now it's my pleasure to pass the floor to you. Dear Vladimir, welcome, please. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Charles, Mr. President, dear leaders. Thank you very much for invitation. Glad to welcome all of you, and grateful for this special meeting. This is a great opportunity to present and discuss the strategy to force Russia into real diplomacy. First of all, I want to thank all of you leaders, and thank to your people, your countries, for your big support. Your unity is also a weapon, and it's a weapon that means one thing for all of us: safety. Together we have saved thousands of Ukrainian lives and proven that war in Europe will not benefit the aggressor. Together we must stop this war, and together we must ensure that the conditions for the kind of peace we need, Ukrainians, your nations, and all of Europe. And let me remind to all of you, this summer we held the, I think, successful peace summit. More than 100 countries and international organizations have supported it, and it's a clear path to restoring a just peace based on the UN Charter. We must hold a second peace summit that will put an end to the war, and we are preparing peace formula framework that includes all the aspects of peace restoration. There were already 4 meetings on peace formula points, and today the 5th one is taking place. I am grateful to France for hosting today's meeting. It's nuclear security, and in November we will come up with full-fledged document based on the peace formula, all the 10 points, and we'll share it for all, including Russians at the peace summit. But how we all can make Russia ready for real diplomacy and force it to just peace? That is the real question. This is what the victory plan provides the answer for. Our people in Ukraine are doing everything they can to defend our state and independence. And I am proud of our soldiers who are holding the front under incredibly difficult, tough conditions. They need more strength because Putin is preparing his own reinforcements to continue the war, not end it. Of course, Putin wants to match your country's ammunition production by next year. And he's getting help from North Korea with shells, equipment, now even people. And plus Iran. Unfortunately, we are receiving signal that China is still actively helping Russia drag out this war. And we have clear intelligence data. We need to strengthen now. The victory plan is designed for this moment, and I urge all of you to help make it happen. If we start now and follow the victory plan, we can end this war no later than next year. Dear friends, I presented the victory plan to our parliament, our people, and I have their support. And I think it's so important to have unity in our country. The goal of the plan is that it strengthens not only Ukraine, but also our entire community, the Euro-Atlantic community. You all know Russia's psychology, and I think some of them know very well. Russia will resort to diplomacy only when it sees that it cannot achieve anything by force. This is the plan. This is exactly what's needed. And we must create the right conditions to end this war. First point of the plan, alliance. Ukraine is a democratic nation that have proven it can defend the Euro-Atlantic region and our shared way of life. And for decades, Russia has used the geopolitical uncertainty caused by Ukraine not being in NATO. Now, the fact of an immediate invitation to Ukraine to join NATO would be decisive. Of course, membership would follow later. Putin just must see that his geopolitical calculations are worthless. And an invitation now with membership later will have no political cost. It's a strong decision that requires nothing but determination. Moreover, yesterday in our parliament I said that the invitation now symbolizes much more than just NATO, and it's true. Determination on NATO for Ukraine also means the inevitability of European integration for Ukraine and the undeniable path of democracy in Ukraine. Invitation will strengthen our diplomatic stance, and this will be one of the main arguments to stop the war. Second point, defense. We must continue to apply pressure on Russia on the battlefield. And it's realistic to maintain positions on the front within Ukrainian territory while also bringing the war back into Russia so that Russians can feel what war is like and begin to hate Putin for it. This is the pressure too. We have a clear list of weapons that can make this possible. And with Kursk cooperation, we have shown that Putin does not have enough strength to hold on when we really apply pressure. So that's why we need to equip our brigades, lift all limitations, invest in Ukrainian defense industrial base and co-produce, and saturate Ukraine with air defense as soon as possible. Third point, real pressure. We propose placing on Ukrainian land a deterrence package that would either force Russia to participate in real peace negotiations or allow for the destruction of their military targets. It's the peace through threats approach for this point. And it's about the appropriate missile package. And we have provided all the details to our partners who can make this happen. These are the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Germany, and of course, we want to share with all the leaders who is ready to support in this case. Putin should respect our strengths, not have the free world tremble at his threats. And we can use the deterrence package only if Russia does not stop the war. Fourth, Ukraine has critical resources worth trillions of dollars, and Russia wants to take them. And this includes titanium, uranium, lithium, graphite, manganese, and much more that should not fall into Russia's hands, nor into the hands of its allies. Enemies of the free world must not gain any advantage in the global competition. Ukraine proposes to key partners, the EU, the United States, and our mutual global partners to make a special agreement on protecting Ukraine's critical resources, joint investment, and directing the relevant economic potential for our shared growth. And this agreement must include sanctions strong enough so that Russia cannot outplay us. And fifth, after this war, we will have hundreds of thousands of soldiers with modern combat experience equipped. And we propose supporting your stance with ours by replacing some of American contingents with our soldiers, especially in Europe or we agreed to, allowing the US to do more in its priority regions in the Pacific or anyway, but for this we need to win, of course. Dear leaders, we are ready to put the victory plan on your table and are counting on your support. Ukraine is ready for real diplomacy, but for it we must be strong. Forcefully imposed truce instead of fair peace never provided security. Nobody is happy when the war is brought back. And our unity, pressure on Russia and strengthening Ukraine are the keys to ending this war in a way that prevents Russia from starting it again. The victory plan is a bridge to a successful second peace summit. You can help make this a reality. And this will protect not only Ukraine, but also Baltic states and Nordics and Poland, Balkans, other regions, other partners which are in Russian sights. At the same time, please don't ease the pressure of sanctions on Russia. It truly helps. And we appreciate the joint work with you on developing defense production. Thank you. Investment and joining manufacturing are really needed. Ukraine is grateful for all forms of your support for our resilience. And this includes support for our energy sector ahead of winter and for our people, especially the financial assistance that helps us meet the basic needs of Ukrainians. And your political decision on solid €5 billion for Ukraine as part of the G7's resolution on $50 billion from Russia assets is extremely important and is needed as soon as possible. Russia must pay and be held accountable for the destruction it has caused. Together we can and must bring peace closer, and thank you very much for invitation. Again, Mr. President, thank you for attention, and today I want to thank personally Charles Michel for his leadership during all these years of presidentship, and thanks for all the decisions you made, dear partners, dear friends. Thank you. Slava Ukraini. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to leave the floor to Mette.
Thank you.